Good day, sports fans and point spread aficionados. Welcome to gamblersWORLD.net, bringing you the Winner's Circle Vegas Legends NFL Week 12 preview, where you'll get insights from 15 of the finest sports handicappers at gamblersWORLD.net. From Las Vegas, I have Jim Feist, Mr. Vegas, and Paul Bovi. And Jim Feist, in case you're not familiar, has actually changed the face of the sports books in Las Vegas. Jim, when I first came out here, there might have been 8 or 12. You came up with the Nevada sports schedule. You organized them all together. They changed the rotation. And from that point on, it's been really a joy to be able to get the numbers and the lines in order. And the order is established nationally. And I'd like to give you credit for that. And I think you really changed the sports book. Well, looking at it out here now, how many we have, the way the system works, and I think you were behind most of it.
I was fortunate coming in 70 when nothing was really organized. The whole industry was a whole lot different. There was only a couple of the handicapping services out there, the Gold Sheet being one of them, Gene
Right.
Slovacic, all of those guys. They're passed on now, but yeah, we put the schedule together. We put the score phone, the line phone.
Right.
People were not able to get the lines, so we put up a phone.
When you started with the schedule, J.K. out of L.A. was prominent at first. And how did you change the rotation? Did you do east to west starting times, or what was the impetus of the order?
Well, we definitely went by time of game, and of
Yeah.
course it was the East Coast games on top. So if there were 10 o'clock games in different time zones, the East Coast would come first. But I wasn't in charge of doing that. We had some people that I hired that were very good in checking the times and stuff like that. But I didn't do it alone. At the time, Gary Austin and I put that together, the Nevada sports schedule. And we've all, of course, moved on to different things, but it was a battle back then. It was a little bit of a war.
Well,
but we
you know
fought
who feels
through
like,
it.
Yeah, well, it came out great. And you know who feels like they're in a battle right now? The bookmakers, when they see Paul Bovi approaching the window. I mean, they quiver back there right now. I'm telling you, right? The problem is, Jim, with Paul, is that he can't get down enough without them changing the line and changing the limits on him. So he has to keep coming back at different prices. Paul, welcome aboard after another great week. And I see you're knocking them dead as usual.
Yeah, well, I have to spread it out, and that's the only way I can handle it.
Right.
I just put a few in, and you face limits, and some people take it as an insult or they get angry. I don't. I actually look at it like a compliment. So I just have to retool, pivot, and you find other outs. That's what you got to do.
Okay, now Paul is a regular on the VSiN radio show, Out of Circa, every Friday night. And Paul, where are you standing right now in the Survivor contest? 15 million virtually on the line there.
I still have 2 left, and
Right.
I'm going to talk about this today because, unfortunately, way back when I was snickering when Washington took a commanding lead over Carolina back in week 5 or week 6 or 7, whenever it was, they're getting the last laugh, those people that utilized other teams, because this week Washington is certainly in play. And out of the 99 entries that are left right now, 57 own Washington as a potential pick, and I wish I was one of those. So I have to go elsewhere, and it's getting very difficult right now because depending upon what you have left in your inventory, you have to make some decisions and eventually going to have to hope some underdogs come through and you can get it right. So we'll see what happens, but right. I'm happy to be in the position I am.
For the people that don't know this, Paul has two entries out of 99 players. I think it's 99 players, but this started with 14,000, right. Around 14,400 players. So it's quite amazing that he is down to the bottom 100, actually the top 100, I would say. It would be positive, not negative.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing feat just to get this far.
Well, that's why we have him here, Jim. And of course, you can get his opinions. You can listen on, like I said, on the VSiN broadcast every Friday night, coming out live out of Circa. Um, right now, Jim and Paul, the NFL has gone to 17 games, and they've added an extra playoff spot as well. And because of this, I don't know if these teams actually feel the kind of urgency that they're supposed to feel here. Are there any must-win games for these teams anymore? I mean, we see Cincinnati is still live, Indianapolis is still live, and these teams should be dead in the water, and yet because the extended schedule, the extended amount of games, and the by the playoff system, when's the urgency start, Jim?
I missed you. You went away. I
No,
missed part of
I'm
the
sorry.
question.
I said there aren't any must games, must win anymore. I mean, at the end of the year, and you think if you have a must win where a team absolutely needs it, that it aids or helps them, the players, or the better. How do you look at a must win game?
Well, mathematically, it comes down to math. It's if you have so many losses and your other teams are in, there are teams that if they can run out the schedule, even the Bengals, who have a terrible record only because they just can't close out games. If they could run out and win all the games they have left on they got a shot. There's some
Right.
people still have a shot. But if they continue, I mean, if they lose this week, I think mathematically they'd be eliminated. But let's put it this way. There are 10 teams in the league that are garbage at this point. Now, they're garbage because, there's a lot of reasons. Bad management, bad coaching, bad ownership, just poor bad luck. There's no way any of these teams could go anywhere. Now, that leaves the other 22 teams with a possibility of getting somewhere. So, yeah, and there's a mathematical equation. If you lose so many games, you're not going to get there. And it's a little bit of a mess, or a lot of a mess, no matter whatever way you want to look at it. Yes, there are must-win games. Like Tampa Bay would have to continue to win because they're 2 games back of Atlanta because they lost to Atlanta twice. So they need some luck there. But they're running into the Giants, who are in tank mode. So they probably get that victory this week.
Paulie, do you approach a game differently from a handicapping viewpoint if a team is in a must-win situation?
Well, I definitely do. I mean,
All right.
You want motivation, and must win equates to motivation. I mean, you go through games that sometimes during the year, a non-divisional game, and you could be in a position where it's kind of meaningless. So must win is must win. And I think, for example, the Dolphins are in a must win. You can't afford to blow a home game against New England when you already have sustained 6 losses or whatever it is. And as Jim mentioned, Cincinnati cannot afford any more losses. And it's a shame because Joe Burrow has thrown 27 touchdown passes versus 4 interceptions. And he did this a lot of times without T. Higgins. So the offense has been there. Unfortunately, the defense hasn't. So they're wasting a great year by Joe Burrow, or so it seems, and they can't afford to lose another football game.
Guys, sometimes I feel. Hold on, Jim. Sometimes I feel that. Sometimes I feel that the must-win puts added pressure on the players themselves, and they may come out a little tight. And I more often look to play against the team in a must-win situation than on them. Jim?
Well, first of all, just talking about Burrow a little bit, I mean, there's a lot of people talk about who the best quarterbacks are in the league. Honestly, I think he might be.
Oh, he could be.
He very well could be the best quarterback on a team that doesn't spend a lot of money supporting him. I mean, and as far as you're going back to your question was again, I'm sorry, Chip.
I've said about it must win. Do the players feel the pressure, and sometimes they come out tight and actually hurts their ability to win the game because they're in that must win situation? More pressure?
Of course that can happen. However, these are professional athletes that have played sports their entire lives in a competitive way. And they've been in situations where through their whole life, from the time they're 4, 5, 6 years old, they've been athletic, they've been strong, they've been bigger kids. They've been, I think they'll get used to it. Now, if you're the favorite, then you might get a little lax. I think going against teams that are a little bit lax in situations. I mean, you might look at the Lions this week. They're going on the road to the Colts. Now, the Colts could easily be put in a must-win situation, but they're a big underdog against the Lions who just put up 50, and they might be feeling a little too full of themselves. Where the Colts know that if they continue to lose, they're out. All these players are playing to get to the next level, to get to the playoffs, to possibly make the Super Bowl. There's a lot of bonus money involved, and there's also big contracts down the road. This is their living, and they've been doing this and playing under this kind of pressure their entire lives. I played professional pool for a long while, and I remember being a little too cocky and not coming through with victories because I was a little too cocky because I'm playing a kid that never played at this level. But I've also been in the underdog role where nobody gave me any chance, and I stepped up. And I think when you play competitively for a long period of time, you get used to that pressure. You and I are, when we don't do that and don't live that kind of world, you can say, hey, yeah, they're going to choke. But
all right. Okay. At this time, we move on and give the public what they're looking for, and that's analysis of some NFL games, Jim. And we're going to go to a quarterback that had his ups and downs right now, as it was. Arizona is now leading the NFC West, and they're at Seattle. This game is a virtual pick 'em. Paulie, let me start with you. Sagrin has graded the Seattle Seahawks team as having played the toughest schedule in the NFL so far this season. Do you think that affects them the rest of the way? And do they have an advantage in the fact that they've already got the tough teams behind them?
Well, certainly you could say they're battle tested, no doubt. Have I been overly impressed with Seattle? They've been very erratic. Geno Smith has been erratic. He threw a very poor interception on Sunday, leading to 49er points. But I'll give him credit. Their defense has kind of held them in there, and they were without a key receiver for a while. This is a game where Arizona has exceeded expectations. They've had a couple big wins in there. They took care of Miami, first game with Tua back. They shut down the Bears, held them to 9 points. I got to give them a lot of credit. It's a road game for them, and this is going to go a long way in deciding the division. I think this game, frankly, it's priced exactly where it should be. The over and under, exactly where it should be. I want to say I have a lean one way or the other. I've looked at the game back and forth, up and down, and I can't come to a concrete decision. So I'm going to say I'm going to pass to you guys and look for a competitive game. So if you want to play the game, based on what I see, you might want to go with a teaser one way or the other, because depending on who's favored, if you're getting one, let's say with Seattle or one with Arizona, you could tease it up to a touchdown, find a dance partner, and bank on a close outcome.
Jim, I think Paulie's right on with this. I was having difficulty making a decision. Listen to this, Jim. Ranking of offenses and defenses. Arizona's 10th. The other side is 12th. Seattle on offense, 21st and 22nd. So they're like hair between the two. It's a pick 'em. Seattle and Arizona. How do you see it?
I'm going with the home team, and I'll tell you why. I think that what they did last week was substantial. I thought that gave them the motivation. Geno's he's had some good times and bad times. He's been in the league 10, 11 years. He had that one good year a couple of years ago. Last year wasn't so good. He has the capability. Now, I can't fault anything that Arizona is doing. But you're going from the dry climate in Arizona up to Seattle, where it's going to be cooler and it's probably going to be raining. Now, who's used to playing in the rain, Seattle or Arizona? It's going to be Seattle. I think that gives them an edge. They have the 12th man. DK Metcalf is back. That's big because he was out for a couple of games and they did have some problems in those games. I give a slight edge to the Seahawks in this spot. I like them to win.
All right, thank you, Jim. And remember, this is gamblersworld.net, and we are Winner's Circle Vegas Legends, giving you an NFL preview. Give us a like, subscribe, and even share us with some of your friends anytime you want. This is complimentary winners from Jim Feist, Mr. Vegas, Paul Bovi, and myself, Chip Chirimbes. Paul, going to Green Bay, they're going to be hosting the Niners. Was the scene of a big defeat, disappointing loss for them last year. Green Bay, a very small favorite. There's some issues with the Niners, though, entering this game.
Yeah, there's some issues on both sides of the ball because defensively, they've been dinged up. We know that. And offensively, I hate to say it, but they look pedestrian. This is not the Niner team that we've seen in years past. Brock Purdy, he's been under a lot of pressure. Deebo Samuel doesn't seem to be the same. His favorite receiver, Purdy's, is Jennings. That's the guy he was throwing to. McCaffrey did get off slightly. I don't think he had any impact. And they were fortunate to score the points that they did on Sunday. As I pointed out, Geno threw an interception, which San Francisco took over at the 30-yard line of Seattle, went in for a touchdown. But what they score, 17 points? I don't have a lot of faith right now in San Francisco. I would definitely lean Green Bay here, and I would go to the low side of the game. Green Bay has a respectable defense. Did they play great against the Bears? It wasn't great. It was good enough to eke out a win, they were very fortunate to get. Santos had a field goal block last play of the game. But I could see actually a lower scoring game here. Green Bay getting the win. San Francisco could be left out of the playoffs miraculously. This is a team that a lot of people had earmarked for the NFC Championship game.
Jim,
I'd like
Paul
to add
said on the
something.
point. Jim, I want to tell you something. He said on the point, San Francisco is now a 2-1 dog not to make the playoffs, and that's what I think is an important factor. Jim, how do you see the fact that the Niners have been favored in all 10 games this year, and now they're a dog?
Well, let's point this out. Brock Purdy has not thrown the ball this week. He's got a sore throwing shoulder. He hasn't practiced. He has not thrown the football. They have issues, like Paul said, on both sides of the ball. This is not a healthy football team. And mentally, they had offseason issues with signing players wanting to be traded, et cetera, et cetera. It looks to me like Shanahan had his run with this team. And Super Bowl loser, hangover, the jinx on that. I don't think they show up. I think the Packers are the side.
I do too as well. I think it's just their time right now. And the Niners, like you said, they've got issues and they're hurting. And thank you, Jim. And by the way, everyone out there, aside from giving us a like, it's hosted by Sean Higgs, and you have free picks every day. Myself, along with Marc Lawrence, Matt Franco, and a slew of other people from gamblersworld.net. Get their insights as to what the big game is for them and what they're promoting for the week. So log on, follow the buy links, become a big game winner at gamblersworld.net. Jim, we have a great one on. Well, some people might think it's a great one, but the way the Philadelphia Eagles been playing of late Sunday night, the Rams at home, 4-6 against the numbers. Philadelphia all of a sudden put it together. After 4 games of the year, they were 2-2, Jim, and they look terrible. And now they've come on really strong with the 6 in a row. And this is an extra rest after a win against Washington on a Thursday night at LA Sunday.
Well, you're asking me this.
Yes.
Philadelphia right now. I mean, a lot of people are saying that the Lions are the best team in football right now and definitely the best team in the NFC. But Philadelphia is challenging them. The way they're running the football and control the ball on the ground is a very dangerous issue. And they definitely look like they're coming on. I'm not a big fan of the coach and the things that he's done and said and off-field stuff, et cetera, et cetera. But be that as it may, the Rams are one of those teams that you talked about earlier, you asked the question, must win?
Yeah.
They're in a situation they better not lose. And
Yeah.
they are home. Now, the last time they were home, and unfortunately, I bet on them against Miami, and that was a mistake because Miami just clocked them. They got up and down the field. They got some field goals, but they couldn't get it in the end zone. Stafford looked really good last week, although that was against a much lesser team. Philadelphia cross-country trip. This is a tough one. That's I'm going to pass on it.
Okay. I could see the Rams laying in wait for them here and come up with a big effort. The line's only 3. Paulie, Jim mentioned the running game of the Eagles, and with Saquon Barkley back there now, they are a whole different animal. He's a big-time back, and I think the Giants made a mistake keeping the quarterback and letting the running back go.
Amen.
What do you see Sunday night?
Look, the Eagles, I'm going to give them credit. I have them to win the division. I was sweating out that game against Washington because early on looked a little sketchy, but eventually the Eagles did pull away, and now they've opened up some distance in the division. But, they've had their struggles along the way. Jacksonville stayed in the game with them, and I could definitely see the Rams coming back at home here. I think that the addition of Nakua in the lineup has really helped them. And if I'm not mistaken, Nakua got thrown out of that Miami game early on. Was it that game? Am I thinking about the right one? He took a swipe at the guy and was thrown out of the game.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And that definitely hurt him. Now, I'll say this about the Rams. They were helped last week because 2 of New England's best pass rushers were out, who had combined for 7.5 sacks out of I think the 27 that they had for the year. So that helped give Stafford a little more time to find his receivers, and they did to the tune of I think 29 points or 28 points, got the spread covering win. This is going to be a little bit more difficult assignment, but they are home. And I think they get an Eagles team that is vulnerable. Let me put it that way. I don't think they're as good as their record. And I think the Rams can pick up a win here at home and atone for that showing against Miami in that nationally televised game in which they were pretty much shut down.
All right, there you go, folks. You have a hat trick on the Sunday night game. All of us believe that the Rams have a good chance to win the game, actually getting the points. May not be necessary, but, Jim, I would always take the points myself. Now, Monday night, they're just going to revamp the field. They're going to put out the vacuum cleaners and clean it. Baltimore is playing the Chargers in L.A., and, Jim, the Chargers have won 4 in a row now, and they're starting to make hay with Harbaugh. They have a new-look Chargers. They're no longer a wide-open passing team. They're a ground-oriented team, and defense leads the way as well.
Well, this is the Harbaugh, Jim and John. It's interesting that we have 2 brothers going against each other in this spot. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh has made a big difference. And when you're talking about an upgrade at head coach from what they had and what they got, Herbert is playing really well. Now, you got to remember, the last game they took the lead over the Bengals. The Bengals defense is garbage. But you know what? The Ravens defense isn't that great either. They got the offense. Both these teams can score points. That's why you're looking at a total in this game, 51-52. That's a big number. It's a very big number. I look for a very high scoring game, but I don't know that I want to go over that kind of number. I think it's just maybe a little bit too big to go over, because both teams will run the ball, and the Ravens can run the ball. I don't know why the Ravens play the way they do. They have the running ability, but they end up going away from the running, and they start passing the ball every play. And when you have that kind of running back sitting there along with Jackson, I don't know why they don't run the ball more frequently than they do.
Jim, to your point, they're not only number one in total offense. I'm talking about the Ravens, 430 yards a game, 7 yards per play overall, and almost 6 yards per rushing attempt. And Jackson, you have him running, and of course Henry's back now, and they look like a formidable foe. Like you said, they keep the ball on the ground. I'm surprised this number is as high as it is, like you mentioned. Paul, this new look Charger team doesn't have much in the passing game, but they're controlling the ball defensively. They're number one, allowing only 14.5 points a game. And yet the Steelers, the Ravens are averaging 30.5 points a game. You see the total or a side on this one before we get out of here?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, I already played this game, and I'd like to get more on it if I can. I played the Charger team total over, and I'll tell you why. First of all, the passing game for the Chargers has much improved, and I think that has a lot to do with the blocking. Their offensive line is healthy. Justin Herbert had an ankle issue. He's healthier, and you could see it because he does not hesitate to run the football. He took off several times against the Bengals and went for long runs. But the Ravens defense got a pass against the Steelers because Russell Wilson does not throw the ball down the field. He's a horizontal thrower that relies on yards after catch. Justin Herbert is not that guy. He's found a new target in Will Dissly. So he's been making use of the tight end, his receivers, McConkey, and I think you're going to see the Chargers get to at least 24 points, and that's going to cash a ticket. And this prevents me from having to bet against the Ravens offense. So that's the direction I'm going to go. I'll go with the Chargers team total over. And I do think it goes over the number. The number opened up at 48.5. I postulated, I did not jump on it, and it skyrocketed to 51. It's backed off, I think, to 50 at last check, but maybe it's back up. I'm not sure, but that's the direction I went.
All right. Thank you, Paulie. And thank you, Jim. And by the way, out there, we did give you a clean sweep on 2 games here. All 3 of our opinions matched on the Green Bay side over the Niners and on the Rams Sunday night over Philadelphia. I only hope we can keep it up, fellas, because 3-0 would be a nice little count on those games. Remember to give us a like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Let them know we're out here. Every week we're here with our college and pro selections. This is the NFL edition of gamblersworld.net. We'll be back again next week. Stay tuned and good luck, everyone.